This is the DallasCowboys.com Draft Show.
The Cowboys are on the clock.
Your war room for insider news and draft analysis.
The Dallas Cowboys select Ezekiel Elliott.
And now, your hosts, Dane Brugler, David Hellman, and Brian Broaddus.
Well, welcome to the draft show once again, the final draft show from the Indianapolis Convention Center here in downtown Indianapolis, Indiana. Happy that you guys are along with us today. Got my buddy Dane Brugler with me here today, but also have a special guest. And I'm excited to have Kyle Martin along with us because Kyle now owns our pick. You own the 27th pick. So we had to have you on to talk about this.
Absolutely.
But, yeah, we want to make sure. But, yeah, here are our buddies at the Raiders. They have 3 picks, by the way. 3 picks in the first round. 4, 24, and 27. But really nice to have you along with us.
Happy to be here. Thank you.
I tell you what, this guy right here does a lot of work with the Raiders, kind of like the same thing we do. We love our Raiders, our brothers and sisters over there. We like to interact with them. They're great folks. But like we always promise you on the draft show, we like to bring different perspectives in. You know, again, you might be somebody that's an Oakland Raider fan and you're watching this show, or you're just a team around the Raiders when they pick, and you might be interested. Hey, you know, Kyle can maybe give you a little insight here. Of course, we're always going to talk to Dane Brugler about that. Kent Garrison is executive producing today. Guys, as we get into it today, we had some big cats that were flying. Dane Brugler.
What's going on with these receivers? What are they? Is it all preparation? Are we just seeing a new breed of athlete these days?
I'll tell you what, that was crazy, some of the speeds that we saw from some of those guys today.
And they weren't really unexpected, I guess. I mean, we knew DK Metcalf was going to test like a freaky talent, especially when you consider almost 6'4", 228 pounds, 35-inch arms. But to go out and run a 4.33.
Yeah.
Goodness. That's unheard of. It's really rare to see a talent like that. So we're still waiting on the 3-cone on the short shuttle. Those, to me, are the numbers that matter a lot more.
Yeah.
But the broad, 11.2, 40.5 in the vert. So he crushed the leaping drills, the straight line drills. And he looked good, the gauntlet, tracking over his shoulder, the position-specific drills, catching the football. He did a nice job in those drills, too. So it wasn't just the 40-yard dash where he crushed it. But, like I said, still waiting on the 3-cone and short shuttle to fully, get the full picture with DK Metcalf and what his day was.
Yeah, and Kyle, and you work for a team, and trust me, I interviewed with the Raiders one time with Al Davis.
Which is a great story.
It is a great story itself. Mr. Davis was still alive, though. If he saw DK Metcalf working out today, he would have said, your 4th pick would have been going right out there for that.
He did love players like DK.
But this is a team when you look at your own club, though. And the Cowboys, you trade you guys make the Amari Cooper trade this direction. So, but that kind of left a little bit of a hole in what the Raiders were trying to do. So you guys really kind of have an eye on all of these receivers as you go forward here.
Absolutely. I mean, once we dealt Amari Cooper, we had a lot of veteran wide receivers still left in the locker room, and we still do. They obviously contributed a lot, and they helped bring a lot of younger guys along. But we need another offensive playmaker. There's no doubt about that. And to your point about Al Davis, he would have loved DK Metcalf.
No, he would have loved DK Metcalf. He would. Mr. Davis used to sit what I used to call Raiderville in like that first chair right at the start of the 40-yard line. I mean, he was every person that has ever run a 40-yard dash had to look Mr. Davis in the eyes as they got on that line. So, and then he was always a size speed guy. And we talk about the size with Metcalf, and that's I think what's so impressive about him though is how big he physically. But guys, do we think that maybe that physical body type is it going to translate, Dane? Is it going to be something that as we get closer into the draft? I mean, we're now past all the Senior Bowls and stuff, and we're past now that we're getting close, but the receivers now have done already worked out. Now, next thing are the individual workouts or private workouts and stuff. Will his body type translate and be okay? You talked about the 20 shuttle and stuff like that.
Right.
You need to see that. But from what you've seen on tape, can he be a guy that, hey, the Raiders are possibly looking at that spot?
It's easy to get seduced by the numbers, the highlights, but when you watch the full body of work with DK Metcalf, there are some holes there. There's no question. As a route runner, getting in and out of his breaks, he's not as dominant at the catch point as you would expect for a player that size. So he is not this premium. He's not Calvin Johnson. He's not, to me, he's not Julio Jones. He's not on that level. He tested similar to those guys, but in terms of being a well-rounded receiver at this point in his development, he's not that guy. So, but what's his value in this draft? Is he a top 10 pick? Is he,
Here, I'm trying to sell him to the Raiders at 4.
Well, he
very
might
well
go.
could. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Buffalo could be looking at him in the top 10. That's possible. And maybe it's something where the Raiders, maybe they really like him. Maybe they use 24 and 27 to go up into the teens and go get him, or something like that. So the DK Metcalf, it's really fascinating because he's an incomplete player on film, undeveloped in several areas, but the freaky talents, you're going to be willing to bet on that because it's so rare, so special. You're going to bet that you're going to coach the rest up. He's going to develop as a route runner, become more consistent, and I think there's a good chance he does. But the other factor is the medicals with him. Right. As long as the medicals check out. So DK Metcalf, this isn't like a clear, he's going top 10 now. He's a complicated player with a lot of reasons to be optimistic, but also some reasons, you have to pump the brakes a little bit and say, he's not this, can't miss player by any means.
Kyle, are you getting a feel for, you talk about I'm asking you about your team. You do a lot of work with John Gruden. You live there in the facility like we do at the Star. Are you getting a feel? I mean, Coach Gruden, he wants playmakers. He's talking about playmakers. I mean, we were up there when his podium time was. You could see through teeth. I mean, I like big, strong, physical type players. This is the kind of guy that John Gruden has got. He's got a like. But also though, are you getting a kind of a feel of maybe what direction or the type of player they might want there? Certainly. Or is that what we just kind of heard, what I just described?
Yeah, no, certainly. I mean, I think you hit it on the head. John, obviously an offensive-minded guy. You've known him for years
Absolutely,
now.
Yes.
But I think, obviously, we have some glaring needs on defense, right? So
okay,
I think
there you go.
The point that the priority for us will to be addressing those needs, at the defensive line, maybe the linebacker a little bit. And, this is a defense-heavy draft.
Right. So
I know there are some mock drafts out there that have the Raiders selecting a wide receiver maybe with the 24th or 27th pick.
So you're thinking it's a little bit more down the line than you're thinking maybe as Dane is doing some of his mock drafts and stuff, if he puts a defensive player at the 4 spot, that's not a bad spot for a defensive player to go there, right? At all.
No, I mean, I can't imagine it would be, right? I mean, this is a defense-heavy draft. But I have a question for both of you, Dane and Brian.
Yeah.
Obviously, with so much being put on, guys like Quinnen Williams and Nick Bosa, do we feel like the wide receivers group has been overlooked up until today?
Yeah.
That's a good question.
All along we've said that this class doesn't have that Calvin Johnson, the Julio Jones, the
I didn't
AJ
see
Green.
A first-round receiver though.
Right.
That's the thing.
It.
I'm trying to think, and I think I see the line of your question because you're telling me like, okay, if I pick wide receiver at 4, am I missing? Should I have picked a defensive player at that spot, or it could be with maybe not a first-round receiver. Maybe you have to take the best receiver. Can you wait till 24 or 27 to get those guys? I mean, or do you have to go ahead and hit the best wide receiver now and then let the draft stretch down into the bottom of the round?
Yeah, and it's really gonna be interesting with this wide receiver class because I agree with you. I really like AJ Brown from Ole Miss, but not at the asking price as a top 20 pick. No, you have to take value into account and how that.
I think John and Mike Mayock will. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I think so too. But you also have to if a pass rusher doesn't fall to them at 24, 27, or it would be really interesting if they take a receiver at 27. That's what would be really interesting because then we're going to be comparing Amari Cooper and whoever the receiver at 27
right.
moving forward, whether that's N'Keal Harry or whoever it may be. That would be really interesting
Arizona
to track.
State, had a nice workout today too. By the way, I think that's so. Yeah, to your question though, me personally, I think that if I had a pick in the top 5 in this draft, and I could find a way to get Quinnen Williams, I think that's the route I would go. Now, again, you might be in a situation, too, where you might tell me, hey, Brian, no, wait, we need pass rusher. We need one of these pass rushers. And then if you look at Dane's board the way it is, he's got 7 edge rusher. Am I going the right way with you?
Yeah.
On this with your team and stuff like that. But
I mean, Mike Mayock said earlier this week during his press availability that, he's spoken with a lot of top flight quarterbacks around the league, and the one thing that makes them all the most uncomfortable is, you'd expect the outside rush, right? But it's always the
inside pressure, right?
Yeah, the inability to step up in the pocket. And, we drafted Maurice Hurst Jr. last year.
Yeah,
who had a
great pick, by the way. I mean, he had the heart condition. We were all sitting there talking about it, and then here you guys take him in the 5th round, and maybe one of your best draft picks, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, definitely. I think he was the most productive just based on stats alone.
Yeah.
But we also have P.J. Hall, Sam Houston State, who also had some productive games. And then we've got Justin Ellis, who's a really good run stopper. So Quinnen Williams, finding a spot for him to fit in would be the interesting thing in Paul Guenther's system.
Mm-hmm.
But like you said, I mean, at this point, after putting up 13 sacks last year, the Raiders obviously know they need to address the ability to bring down the quarterback.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I mean, Quinnen Williams, definitely that kind of guy, but they also haven't ruled out, whether John has said it or Mike has said it, they're not, putting themselves in one specific situation. They're open to moving around, trading picks, whatever comes their way.
Yeah. See, that's what I think you have to do. I think you have to keep an open mind. That's the best way to do it. If you're out there and you're studying this draft and you're a team, you don't want to sit there and pigeonhole yourself into saying, okay, we've got to draft. Some of the worst drafts we had at the Cowboys were when we said, okay, got to have a defensive back, got to have a corner, got to have this, got to, when you keep the board in your mind wide open, then I think you draft better that way. I really, really do.
I agree. And we do have some shuttles. DK Metcalf ranked 30th among the wide receivers with a 4.50 short shuttle.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
That's 4.50.
Could he not bend
average.
Down to hit the line?
And
then again, you talk about flexibility in the upper body. 4.50. So he was
4.50.
So he was probably ranked. Does that last? Would that be?
There was like 34, 35 receivers who did it.
See, now there you go. And
just for context, here are some past short shuttles.
Okay, go ahead. And this is the wide receiver version of it, right?
Right.
Short shuttles.
Well,
we're talking about the 20 shuttle, right?
The short shuttle, 20 shuttle, yeah.
Right.
Like Odell Beckham, 3.94.
Yeah.
Julio Jones, 4.25. So a little closer.
By the way, today, I think today. Now you talk about you had a tight end. You talk about 4.25 with Jones. Fant was a 4.22 on the shuttle, on the 20 shuttle. So it kind of gives you a little bit of idea. Fant with the Iowa tight end running a very similar short shuttle to what you had from Julio Jones.
Among the top receivers in the NFL, 2 are around that range. DeAndre Hopkins ran a 4.50.
And he had a slow 40
he was
time
a 4.57 guy.
Yeah, coming out.
And then Jarvis Landry, 4.59. So
another
2 examples
guy,
of productive NFL receivers who, 2 of the highest paid NFL receivers who did not have a great short shuttle times, but obviously it's not affecting them too much in the NFL.
Man, so 4.50. That's kind of what I was looking at. It was right in my notes, here, Kyle, and I'm thinking, okay, what is this guy? And you, I think you nailed it right on the head, where you say, okay, straight line speed. Where is the lateral quickness?
Change of direction.
Change of
direction.
direction.
Goes back, we're talking about his routes, getting in and out of his breaks.
Exactly.
Sinking. I mean, it's great that he looks the way he does and he runs fast in a straight line, but playing receiver is not about just going in a straight line. It's so much more than that, especially if we're talking about a top 20 receiver. So, it's the 3-cone. The 3-cone is what I'm really interested in to see where he comes in at that. Because that's, balance, that's change of direction, that's the ability to redirect cleanly off your plant foot. There's so much that goes into it. If you're even a little stiff, it's going to show in your time.
Yeah, that is one of those drills when you watch watch on tape or watch as a scout, and you could see if a guy can bend or the lack of bend.
Well, and our Noah Fant, our Iowa tight end,
right?
He 6'8" a 3-cone.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is a ridiculous.
Anything under 7 was really, really good, right?
And for a tight end, anything under 7 is remarkable.
Right.
I mean, Rob Gronkowski is a 7.18.
Right.
I think Kelsey is a 7.0 or 7.08. Who else? Ertz is like a 7.09, something like that.
Yeah.
So the only really tight end that's comparable to that starting the NFL right now is Kittle, another former Hawkeye tight end who he didn't work out at the combine, but his pro day I think he was like a 6'7", 6'3" cone. So for a 6'8" for Noah Fant is just a remarkable time. Yeah, and I think that again that's. It's all about. I mean, it's just not about running fast here. Right. You know, it's about trying to find a way to say, okay, because a lot of guys can train for this. Sure. You know, a lot of guys. And on Periscope today, and again, we thank all the folks on Periscope. They were asking Dane about Boykin from Notre Dame. Yeah. You know, and again, you know, we're talking about a player that when you watch him on tape, he doesn't play as fast as how his drills and stuff went today. You don't see that separation. Yeah. And you could probably throw Hakeem Butler in there too. Butler was the same way, right? He tested really well, 4.48, I believe. Yeah. He doesn't separate on film. Yeah. And it's against Big 12 defenses. As you know, Dane loves to take a shot at the Big 12. Only the defense. No offense taken. I'm a Pac-12 guy. Yeah, so Pac-12. Yeah, we got a quacker over here. Yeah, to my right. Only the Big 12 defenses, though. Yeah, not the offenses. Yeah. Let's shift gears a little bit, though. Was there any other wide receivers that you got to see today that you were like, man, you know what, that guy kind of caught my attention. I need to do some more work on him, or boy, he confirmed what I thought he was. Was there anybody particular you were watching that you kind of had your eye on?
I mean, I appreciate you asking because there's certainly one guy who I knew was a playmaker, no doubt, but his bench press and his performance during the drills today really took me by surprise. N'Keal Harry. Yeah. I mean, I didn't expect him to match DK Metcalf on the bench, right? Let alone post the numbers that he did in the 40. And there's a Pac-12 guy talking right there. Right? Exactly. Yeah. So, but a big receiver, right? Ran well. I mean, ran as well as we thought for him, right? If the Raiders are looking for a receiver in the late first, I think he might be in that mix. You know, I don't know if his drills today really moved the needle, but I think if you liked N'Keal Harry coming in, you leave feeling pretty good about that. Sure. Yeah. You were talking about that. Yeah, I didn't expect him to bench what he did, you know, and I surely, like I said, it's one of those things where when you watch him play on tape, though, he has got some, you know, he's not hard to find. He really, really isn't hard to find because, again, that's that size you see on the outside there with him being, you know, almost 6'2.5", 228 pounds. You know, I think you're right, Kyle. I mean, there's some things that he did that I thought were very, very good here. You know, you look at the bench, you look at the time, 4.53. If you say that he looks like that right there is faster than what I think he plays at. When you're watching the tape. I mean, same thing with Butler and Notre Dame kid. I mean, they and it's. I mentioned this yesterday during the show, but talking to a scout who said that he really doesn't care as much about the 40 anymore because they train for all this stuff now. It's so much about technique than anything else. You know, it's if you get the technique down, then you know you're gonna fly. And so we saw that from some guys today. So, you know, it's a lot of these guys will trust the tape over the 40 times, but you know, it's good to. He certainly didn't hurt himself with that kind of time. That's for sure. Well, let me ask you about a guy that, you know, and again, I'll swing it now to Texas a little bit, though. Little Jordan Humphrey, though, you know, and you made the comment, and people were asking me on Twitter about, you know, his official time of 4.75. What does that do for you? I mean, in the comment you made, well, that's not bad if you're looking at a tight end. I saw your tweet, and it caught me by surprise a little bit. Yeah, it did. But what have we said about little Jordan Humphrey all along? He's a big slot receiver. Right. What's another name for a big slot receiver? A tight end. I mean, you know, that's what he is. He's going to be detached. He's not going to be an inline tight end in the pros, but he's that big, physical pass catcher who can get in between levels of the defense. He can, you know, crossers, outs, whatever. He can do those things. He's not going to be a vertical threat. He's not going to be a guy that consistently creates on his own, but he can work the middle of the field. He's tough. We didn't see him drop a pass. No, not at all. Yeah, when we watched the tape, that the 4.75. 4.75. Yeah, that sticks out like that certainly looks bad compared to the rest of these times. But when you really break him down on what he is and what you expected, I don't think that it's too big of a deal. Yeah, it is. And let me ask you this though, Kyle, as we transition, since we're talking about tight ends. Was there, you know, is that something that the Raiders, I mean, is that something that you as a squad, when you watched your team all year, is it something you say, wow, we're really happy
that there's a lot of depth at that position. Is that something that we could see the Raiders coach Gruden and Mike Mayock looking at maybe?
I mean, possibly. Jared Cook obviously was our leading receiver last year.
Right.
He had quite the connection with Derek Carr.
Right.
I believe Mike Mayock said earlier this week he received word that there's a possibility Jared decides to test the free agent market.
Gotcha.
So who knows if he returns? I'm sure they would love to have him back. But definitely, as I've looked at mock drafts, leading up to the combine and throughout the combine, I've seen a lot of tight ends that have been linked to us. Guys like T.J. Hawkinson.
Right.
But Noah Fant, I mean, you look at that speed and
sure. And that's something that John could surely use. I mean, that's something. If John Gruden, I mean, he a little bit of an old style offense, with what he wants to do. But what's a way to help Derek Carr?
He needs a
tight
target.
end. Yeah, he needs a target there. So you get a guy that can get down the field. You talk about a receiver. See, you guys got all those picks and those early picks, and it could definitely help. I mean, if you decide to again address it early on the defensive side and come back at the end of that draft. I mean, you guys can do some good damage there.
I definitely agree. I think it'll be a really fun draft for us because I mean, there's so many.
Yeah,
different
we're
spots.
going to show up in your backyard because nothing to do with us in the first round.
You're going to be living vicariously.
I'm going to live through
us,
you guys is what you're going to do. But were there any of the tight ends when you were watching today, or anything stand out of the work? I know we only got you for about 10 more minutes, but was there anything from the workouts? I know you talked about the receiver, but is there anything else with the tight ends, the quarterbacks, anything like that kind of stand out from you today?
Truthfully, I didn't get to watch the tight ends as much as I wanted to, just because we had so many defensive linemen going to the podium today.
Right, so you were focusing on that exactly.
I figured that's the priority right now, but definitely I saw a little bit of Noah Fant. I saw the Little Jordan Humphrey. Yeah, I saw that, but I think I watched a little bit of the bench press yesterday, and T.J. Hawkinson, obviously, he was one of the guys that was headlining the event. And all that
absolutely.
Stuff. So
yeah.
I think there's definitely a few players that we could see potentially as targets for the silver and black.
Right.
But I keep coming back to it. It's going to be defense heavy. I believe.
Yeah. See, that's where I think I think this is where a lot of teams are going to be sitting. Don't you think, Dane? Where depending on where the quarterback goes.
Sure.
Once if that quarterback goes, and I'm talking about. Our guy from Oklahoma. If he goes 1 overall, what direction you think this draft's going to go? The Raiders here potentially talking about defense. Is that going to be the way this thing is going to work? Now that we're about to leave the combine here in a couple of days, is that the way you think that it's going to go? That quarterback though, Kyler Murray, and then boom, here come all these defensive guys off that board.
I think, where we are right now, we're 2 months away from the draft.
Right. 55 days, I believe.
Yeah, that's
Can't
stressful.
get here soon enough.
I need another month
Dane's
at least.
Sweating.
I think that Kyler Murray is the favorite at this point, the odds-on favorite to go number 1. And then I think Dwayne Haskins, there's a good chance someone trades into the top 5 to get Haskins. And so that's pushing another good player to 4 in the Raiders.
Yeah.
And then, it's going to – if there's another – say a quarter – say Bosa goes 2, and then say someone trades up to the Jets at 3 to take Haskins. Yeah. All of a sudden, and you're the Raiders, you have a chance to take the second best non-quarterback in this draft, or you're going to be getting a lot of phone calls.
Yeah.
Where another team looking to get up to get a Josh Allen, get Quinnen Williams – whoever, and so you have a chance to move back and get even more picks.
That's where I think the Raiders are. I think this is where the Raiders are sitting in a really good spot.
We have a lot of control, and
a lot of flexibility, especially if the draft goes the way that Dane just described it, and then all of a sudden you're getting those phone calls of people wanting to move up, and now you're talking about a team. Hey, early when we opened the show, you're saying, man, Raiders got a lot of needs. We got this defensive help. I mean, we can use a lot of things. So all of a sudden, John Gruden, Mike Mayock. They parlay that 4th pick, move down a little bit, pick up some more capital, and then, now the Raiders are controlling the draft.
And who's to say if that is the situation, the scenario that happens, who's to say that they won't use the 24 and 27 pick to make a trade with those, whether they move up again or move back? I mean, who knows, right?
Yeah.
There's so many variables that go into it, as Dane knows for sure, but who knows? I think it's really exciting, and if 1's Kyler, 2, I don't think the Niners would pass on Bosa.
Yeah.
And then 3, if somebody trades up and gets Haskins, you got Josh Allen available, you got Quinnen Williams. There's a lot of really good guys that you can choose from there.
A lot of good players available there for as well. Tight ends on your end today? I know we were kind of bouncing around in the draft a little bit, but any tight ends today? I mean, we kind of talked about him a little bit, but is there anybody down the line? The Cowboys. Jerry Jones said today that, hey, at 58, if there's a tight end available, don't discount. I mean, that's not something. Even with Jason Witten now coming on board, is there something though was there a tight end down the line that you kind of caught your eye a little bit?
Yeah, and I think we can really stop talking about the Iowa guys because
you can. Yeah.
It's in terms of 58 or Cowboys being a future Cowboys.
Right. I've kind of moved on. I've tried it in my mind. I was kind of dreaming that way, and then 2 days ago, I just got my dreams just slammed. So go ahead.
But later on, I think San Diego State had a really good day. Why don't you pronounce his name for me?
I want you to pronounce his name for me.
Kahale Waring.
Yeah, Kahale.
Yes. And I love the backstory. This is a guy who played every sport imaginable growing up except football. He didn't touch a football until his senior year in high school.
He was a water polo goalie?
Water polo, soccer, volleyball, basketball.
Yeah.
What am I missing? Tennis, swimming.
So he did everything but football.
He lettered in high school.
All the sports.
Basically, he was a basketball first guy.
Yeah.
Okay, focused on basketball, and then in the off season, he would find a fun sport to play.
Yeah.
As a hobby and to stay in shape, that kind of thing. And his senior year, he went to football, loved it, and
didn't know how many players on the field, did he?
Well, San Diego State gave him a walk-on opportunity, so he goes to San Diego State.
Right.
Special teams. He's sitting in a special teams meeting. The special teams coordinator asks him a question: How many players are on a field for your team on special teams? He's 13.
Yeah.
He had no idea. None. And so it's just kind of an example of how raw this guy is, just 4 years removed from that type of thing. So you can tell the athleticism. He's a natural athlete.
Right.
He's not the most polished as a route runner, but he's such a natural athlete that it comes easy to him. He moves really well. I thought he caught the ball well today. He had some good times. He ran a 4.67.
Sure did.
Right around the NFL average. 36.5 vert, that's above average. 10.2 broad, that's above average. So the athleticism is there. I'm telling you.
4.25 in the shuttle. He was the third. He was the third.
That's Julio Jones.
Yeah, he was
Julio
third.
Jones ran a 4.25.
He was third fastest in the shuttle for the tight ends today. Actually, one of the tight ends had a 4.11. Who was it that would be? Oh, Foster Moreau from LSU. Go Tigers.
Good for him. Yeah,
Foster
that's
Moreau,
good for him.
the LSU Tigers. So yeah,
Waring is a player to keep on the radar as a potential ride. And I said this before the combine.
Okay, more of a. Has he moved himself? Is he now a third round guy or is he a
I think top
fourth
100,
round guy?
Top 100 is certainly possible.
Top 100.
Yeah, I think if you're looking, if you really wanted him, and you're the Cowboys, you'd almost have to take him at 58. I'm not sure he gets to your third round pick.
See, I think Cowboy fans would have a heart attack.
Probably.
If you took a player who has not played, I mean, basically has played limited amount of football. And by the way, they drafted a San Diego State tight end before.
Yeah.
That in the second round that didn't work out very well.
But if we're talking about the tight end position.
Yeah.
You're drafting a tight end this year. He's probably not going to play a lot as a
you've
rookie.
You've talked about
so,
that. Sure have.
If you're going to take a tight end, why not take a chance on a high upside guy like that who you don't need him to play a lot of snaps as a rookie, and you let him develop and grow. And so, a second round price tag would be pretty expensive. But some of these other tight ends, I thought to me the top two seniors, San Jose State, Josh Oliver, and then Washington, Drew Sample.
Right.
I thought both those guys had terrific workouts today. I think they, in my mind, cemented themselves as the top two seniors in this draft class.
Well, let me ask you this: a little disappointed though about Isaac Nada and what he ran. If you look at Isaac Nada, guys. Those times were 4.92, 4.99, verified official time of 4.91. Here's a guy, Kyle, that at Georgia doesn't play that well. Dane, doesn't play like a guy that's a 4.91 guy, though.
That's
I mean, and Brian Broaddus watching the tape is thinking about him as a third-round guy. Him, Sternberger from Texas A&M. Mm-hmm. Those tags are touching, that kind of thing. But do I just say, okay, trust the tape, and don't worry about that?
That 4.9.
When he takes that deep sigh.
That 4.9 just sticks out. You can't help but just see that 4.9.
He'll run better at Georgia, don't you think, guys?
You would think, but it's not just the 40. The 3-cone. What was the 3-cone? 7.45.
3-cone was 7.45.
Short shuttle 4.43.
4.43. Yeah.
Better than DK Metcalf.
Yeah.
But, still, it's not what you want, especially if you're talking about a top 100 pick. And that's how we've been talking about Nada as a potential third-round target for this team. Not the numbers you wanted to see. Really, none of the Well, I guess McCole Hardman had a good 40, but
yeah.
Riley Ridley didn't have a great. We talked about Holyfield yesterday.
Right.
Today, Riley Ridley.
Kind of a bad day for Georgia football.
Yeah, I mean, really, besides McCole Hardman, who had a 40-yard dash.
But he runs fast anyway.
He does. He's a track guy. He's expected to run fast.
Yeah.
It really was not a good a good day for the Georgia guys. But Riley Ridley, he's I still like him. I love his route running ability. But he was in the 4.6s. The vertical is only 30 inches. So not a great – and that kind of matches up with Nada, who also struggled. And so – yeah, I mean, okay, you're leaving the combine.
I'm not feeling good about Nada. I'm feeling good about the tape. But then again, we had the same thing.
Do you go back to the tape? Do you just trust what your initial reaction?
I trust it because I'm trusting. I remember my running back from Florida Atlantic, Singletary.
Another one, yeah.
Didn't have it. All of a sudden I'm thinking, wait a minute, the tape is better than what the workout is.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm kind of trusting that. I think that's what I'm doing.
I think it's an interesting position that you guys are in now with Witten, and since you gave the pick, the first round pick to us, I mean, you guys debate the tight ends.
But like I say, we'd want to be in your shoes with the 3 picks. All right, before we let you go, I'm not going to ask you who you're going to take. I'm going to ask you, though, do you think you make all 3 picks in the first round?
I would hope so. I mean, whether you trade up and you use 2 picks, but I would like to see all 3 picks used, whether you go defense, and then you address the wide receiver need.
Right.
I could see that playing out. I mean, the 27th pick that you guys gave us or the 24th pick.
Oh, we were happy to have the player, by the way.
Yeah. Oh, I know you were, yeah. But it'll be interesting to see how everything goes.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of very talented playmakers in this draft,
Absolutely.
whether there's defense on offense.
Yeah.
But I definitely this week has shown me that I shouldn't be overlooking the wide receiver positions as much as I have been.
Absolutely. You get on those wide receivers.
I'm hoping it's going to be a wide receiver at 27, just so we can.
I know
he
wants the comparison to see
fun.
where they're at there.
Yeah.
So, okay, hey Kyle Martin, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you guys for having
me. We're gonna keep in touch with you though. Again, we're gonna live through you that first night of the draft though, and wish you guys the very best. Hope we see you guys in the preseason too. Maybe get together one last time at the old Oakland Alameda County Coliseum there and have some fun and kind of catch up with everybody. But good hunting, though. I'm excited for you, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
All right,
Brian.
when we come back, we're going to get into some Twitter on the 20, trying to get to your questions. And I'm also going to try and take some questions. David Hellman's not with us, but I'm going to try and take some questions off Periscope as well. And so stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Essilor has been helping Cowboys fans see better since 1972 so they don't miss a moment on the field. Get glasses with Essilor's best vision, clarity, and protection with the Essilor Ultimate Lens Package. 3 innovative technologies in one lens. For a limited time, you can double your lenses for free when you purchase the Essilor Ultimate Lens Package and get a second pair of frames. Find a participating eye care professional and details by visiting EssilorUSA.com. That's EssilorUSA.com. Terms and conditions apply.
You want the most interesting, up-to-the-minute Dallas Cowboys news straight from the Star in Frisco? How about exclusive and on command? That's right, news and nuggets you can't find anywhere else. With our exclusive Cowboys content on Alexa, you can have all the answers, secrets, stories, and more. What's Stephen Jones thinking during a game? What's Joe Looney's favorite pregame meal? We take your questions to Cowboys players and coaches, and you can hear the answers directly back to you. Just say, Alexa, open Dallas Cowboys.
If you're like me and you love... if you have a thing, then cutting the cord is scary. But then I found out I could switch to DirecTV Now and still get the live sports I love. No satellite needed, no bulky hardware, no annual contract, just...
Get the live sports you love. Try DirecTV Now for $10 a month for 3 months. Visit DirecTVNow.com. DirecTV Now. More for your thing. That's our thing. Use code REALDEAL. Limited time. Price for little package. After 3 months, renews monthly at full price. Currently minimum $40 unless canceled. Prices may change. New subscribers only. Cancel anytime. Content varies by package and may be limited. Restrictions apply.
A man's Stetson doesn't just protect him from life's elements. It projects an unstoppable and legendary spirit, just like the men wearing silver and navy on the field every Sunday. Since 1865, Stetson hats are American-made with pride right here in Texas. They are still the official crown of all self-respecting Cowboys. And Stetson is proud to be on the field with America's team. Find Stetson hats in the Pro Shop or at Stetson.com today.
Dr. Pepper is the one you crave. But how do you explain that craving?
Imagine being shipwrecked on a desert island, alone. Glass-like curls of surf pound the shore with Dr. Pepper-colored waves. Surrounded by desire, but you can't drink it because it's the ocean. Fish live in there. The only thing you want is Dr. Pepper. and you can't have it.
Now that is a Dr. Pepper craving. Dr. Pepper, the one you crave.
This is the DallasCowboys.com Draft Show.
The Cowboys are on the clock.
We're back here at the 2019 NFL Combine. It's our final night here in Indianapolis, and we'll be back. The draft show will be back next Thursday from the Star in Frisco. We're going to kind of put a bow on this, kind of talk about. We've got the linebackers tomorrow, defensive line.
Yep.
And
Monday morning
it's defensive
secondary.
backs. Yeah. So again, we want to thank Kyle Martin from the Raiders for coming on with us. The Raiders are just, our organizations are tied together in a lot of ways, and we're happy our brothers and sisters are always showing up with us. So I also want to say that David Hellman not here with us tonight. So Kent Garrison will be taking over for Twitter on the 20th. So make sure you get the questions in. I know he's got plenty of them. And then again, I'm going to try and take some questions off Periscope. I'll start with a Periscope question though, if I can first, Kent.
Go for it.
Okay, how would you describe what with Samuel, the wide receiver from South Carolina, his workout today? What was your thoughts on that there, Dane?
I thought he had a pretty good day. Just not only in the drills, but the position-specific stuff. Catching the ball well. I mean, he was in the late 4.4s.
Yeah, he was. The times we got on him is 4.4. 4.49, 4.50.
Okay. Yeah.
So, if you want to split times, that's going to put him right at 4.49. So, Nice job by him, though.
39 in the vert, was a 10.2 in the broad. Good numbers for him. And especially because he's a bigger guy. He's 215 pounds. He's a thick, well-built receiver. And so he ran pretty well, better than some other guys that are lighter than him.
Right.
And I think it's kind of the final step for his evaluation because he came back from his injury this past year at South Carolina, didn't put up the ridiculous production that maybe some expected, but did well on tape. Goes to the Senior Bowl and he killed it. He was the best receiver there consistently each day in, day out. And, we'll see if he's the first receiver drafted among the seniors. I think Emmanuel Hall from Missouri or something to say about that.
Boy, I tell you what, that
Andy
was
Isabella.
Did you expect Hall to run 4.4 like that?
No, I expected him to run 4.3, to be honest.
Did you really?
Yeah.
But you were.
He's a track guy. He won states in high school in the high jump. And, Emmanuel Hall is a tester. We expected him to test like a freak. And so, and he did. And he lived up to expectations. His jumps were ridiculous. What were his jumps officially? It was like 11.9 in the broad.
Yeah, it was incredible here.
Which is a silly number. I think only Byron Jones has a better one among recent results. And so, the 40, he's a straight line guy. The big thing with him, with Emmanuel Hall from Missouri, is just consistency. It's staying on the field. He has allowed some muscle injuries, hamstring, that kind of thing, take him off the field. And he needs to, just does he have the competitive nature to power through that? That's something that scouts have questioned in the past. So can he be reliable, stay on the football field? If he does, I think he's a top receiver, senior receiver in this draft.
Yeah, 43.5 on the vertical on Hall.
That's quite good.
Yeah, that is. That was quite good. That was impressive. That's some.
So 4.39 the final.
Yeah, the 4.39 on the 40. So
he's a 4.3 athlete. There
absolutely. You go. Okay, Kent, what do you got on your end of it, please?
Yeah, we got John LaGrace. How did Debo do at the Combine, and is he going to last to 58?
Well, we kind of just summed up how he did. So did he last to 58? That's a good question. I don't know. I think I did a second-round mock, my last mock draft, and he was still around. I had him going to the Patriots, I think, right after 58. So right around that range. These wide receivers kind of, take the top 10 wide receivers, put them in a shake them up, and then see where they fall. Because it's some teams are going to prefer N'Keal Harry over Debo. Some might prefer Debo over A.J. Brown. It's just they bring something different, and so I don't have any confidence in saying, okay, this is going to be the order they come off the board. It'll definitely be Metcalf, Hollywood Brown, A.J. Brown, Kelvin Harmon, N'Keal Harry. Like I don't think we should have feel any confidence that it's going to be that order, or because each of these receivers are different. They have different strengths, different weaknesses, and for specific teams, they might be looking for something different.
Do you think Andy Isabella brought himself back into the picture, or were we just kind of laying in the weeds on Andy Isabella and what he did? 4.31 today with his 40-yard dash.
I think
because we stopped talking about. Remember, he was kind of the buzz at the Senior Bowl,
the first day, yeah,
and then all of a sudden it was like, let's talk about, there were others, there were names. We were talking about Renfro and the kid at Georgia State and stuff like that. So
to me, I mean, Isabella has been the same guy. I think he's a third-round pick. That's why I wouldn't necessarily take him at 58.
Right.
But we talked about if the Cowboys wanted him,
they'd have to take him at 58.
Because there's a good chance he's not there for him in the late third.
Why would I rather have like a guy like Darius Slayton?
Oh, he had a good day.
Yeah. See, that's why if you're going to pick me a receiver,
it's just what are you looking for?
What are you looking for?
Andy Isabella. People get frustrated with this, saying that he's an outside receiver.
Sure.
Can he play outside? Yeah, I'm sure he'd be just fine. He did it in college. He could play outside.
Right.
But his strengths play so much better in the slot, where he can manipulate the middle of the field, use that speed, use that quickness. Could he play outside? Yeah, I'm sure he could. But going up against corners that are a lot bigger than him, if they press him, get their hands on him, they'll slow him down.
Yeah.
And so, I want to see him in the slot where he has more space to work with. I think that's how you really maximize what he can do. And then there's Darius Slayton, who more of a vertical threat. He's going to drive corners off the top of routes. He's going to get behind corners and take the top off of defense. He had himself a really good day.
I thought he was really impressive. Matter of fact,
the jumps, the vert.
Yeah, everything about him was really, really good. So what else you got, Kent?
Yeah. This one's from Walter.
Okay.
Do teams often fall for the workout warrior trap? Seeing Metcalf in top 5 and top 10 projections now, but the tape doesn't justify that, in his opinion. What do you guys think?
First of all, do you agree that it doesn't justify what the tape says?
I think there's things that we were talking about earlier when you look at when I was looking at my notes, the concerns that you had about the lateral quickness and the in and out of breaks and stuff like that. That's stuff that's in my notes.
Right.
So again, if you're falling in love, and again we were talking about it, we were kind of making fun with Kyle, but he's if Mr. Davis was alive, that and it's funny because I saw Mike Lombardi, who used to work with Mr. Davis as well, just said if he saw Metcalf running that, he said put him on my team. That's what So I think you have to be careful there. I think you really, really have to be careful there. And if you're going to elevate him a round or two, you knew he was going to run fast.
Right.
You just okay.
We talked about it at length.
Yeah, but let me tell you what. There were a couple of times where I saw him catch the back of the ball today. A couple of things where if you want to fall in love with all the measurables and stuff, great. But there were a couple of times where I thought he fought the football a little bit, and that might have been nerves.
Yeah.
That might, but catching the back of the ball and stuff like that. Are your hands quick enough? Are you the body type and all that? That's. This guy is, you talk about with the shuttle and everything else. I think it's kind of one of those things you have to be very, very careful if you're a team and you're falling in love with just the measurables.
Yep. No, that's because, there's so much more that goes into it. And some of it you do see. I mean, the first game of that Alabama tape, he beats Savion Smith right off the line, and then it's over. Yep. The quarterback hits him deep for a touchdown. So, there's plenty of tape that shows – the speed translating to the field, the size, the length. He has tracking skills. Again, but when in the NFL, when you're facing corners that are, on the level of NFL corners, it's not easy to just gain that separation. Ask Laquan Treadwell.
Right.
It takes much more than being a good-sized athlete who can move. It is. And, and with DK, I'm not saying he's headed for that path. I'm just saying that it takes more than being just a height, weight, speed freak. And I think he can be that, but he's not this can't-miss player. And so will he get propped up because of the freakish qualities? I think that's possible because – and it's not just because of the freakish qualities, but because of the optimism for what he's going to be, not just day one, but when you look at him a year from now. Can he grow into a number one role with an NFL team? Can he be that mismatch weapon? I think he has potential to do that, but that's a lot to ask if you're talking about drafting him in the top 10.
Kurt wanted to ask off Periscope. He just made a comment. He said those Ohio State wideouts had a day today.
They did. And just wait till Kendall Sheffield, the corner from Ohio State, runs on Monday.
You think he might be the fastest?
He might be the fastest guy here.
In the combine.
He set an Ohio State indoor record in the 60 meters this past spring. So he's a track guy. He knows how to run. Tapes up and down, but he's going to run out of the gym. So look for that on Monday. But, yeah, back to the receivers from Ohio State, there's no question. Paris Campbell. And we expected Paris Campbell. He is a really impressive athlete.
Very impressive athlete.
Not just the speed, but he did it across the board. The verts, the jumping drills. And one thing that I really liked about Paris Campbell this past year compared to his junior year, and this is why he came back to school, he caught the ball a lot more consistently as a senior. Now, he's very unproven as a vertical threat. A lot of his routes are underneath stuff. He's basically that H-back for Ohio State, Urban Meyer offense. But the athlete, there's no disputing how special he is, and that's going to push him up. I wouldn't be shocked if he went in the first round just because we're talking about these special athletic traits, but I think he will at least be a top 50 guy for several teams. And then Terry McLaurin, who had a great week at the Senior Bowl.
Well, I tell you what, I was surprised how fast he was.
Well, I
saw a more quick than fast guy. Again, this might be training at Ohio State. Give them a lot of credit for getting their kids ready.
What I love about him as a vertical threat, and you could see this on tape, his secondary burst. Like, he doesn't always win off the line, but he has, he leaves a little bit left over in the tank where he has that secondary burst.
A little separation at the end of the route, yeah.
Yeah, you see that, the corners got him, then all of a sudden there's two lengths in between the two players downfield. He has that secondary burst to separate late, and we saw that in the 40 because he sustained that speed the whole 40 yards and did a nice job. So Terry McLaurin, and then what he can do on special teams as a gunner, I think
he was all Big Ten special teams guy. Am I right about that?
You talk to Urban Meyer, and he'll tell you he's one of the best special teamers he's ever been around.
Yeah.
And so that's high praise. And I think he's going to be a guy that maybe he's not a starter right away, but he's going to come in as a 3 or a 4 on a team and bust his butt on special teams.
He's going to be on the 46 every week, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then he's going to be on special teams. That's how he's going to earn his paycheck. And then as he works up the wide receiver depth chart, or at least attempts to. So McLaurin's going to have no problem finding a job in April.
Okay, Kent, what else you got?
Not that I'm endorsing this or saying this is going to happen at all. I'm kind of a Dave Hillman thing to say, but
that's why you're taking over for him today.
Yeah. Any later round quarterbacks that are better than what we have in Rush and White right now. Because I don't think they're going to take a guy because they've invested in Mike White. They've got a younger guy in Cooper Rush. I think they're going to take either one of them and Dak. But is there any guy right now that if they did choose to, do a fifth round guy, that would be better than Mike White?
See, I had a third round grade on Mike White, and I haven't studied this. The quarterback's journey, the last position I'll study because I want to make sure I get the combines in, the medicals.
Mm-hmm. What would he be in this draft, Mike White?
Well,
where would he compare?
Okay, you can compare. But I had him in the third, but see, I haven't seen. I don't know if I can compare him. I'll tell you who threw the ball pretty well. You're going to laugh at me for saying this, but that Nick Fitzgerald threw the ball. I know you will, but I'm not saying you. I'm just saying though. But better than like Will Greer and those guys. Some of those guys were throwing the ball. I mean, I was
Mississippi State.
There was a lot of up and down with guys today, and I don't know if it was nerves. I don't know if it was nerves.
Tough.
Because it's not their receivers. It's not
timing's
their
off.
timing. They might be tired. The pressure and all that.
Yeah.
But I will say this though, there were a lot of those guys that was kind of expecting a better day throwing the ball, and I don't know if I was really just overly excited about any one of these guys.
No, I think you're right.
Just from a combine workout.
Sure, exactly.
Just from a combine workout.
I agree with Kent, where I don't expect them to draft a quarterback even late, but a name to keep an eye on would be what's a school that this team is notorious for drafting?
Boise State.
There you go, Brett Rippon. And you know who's a big Brett Rippon fan? Kellen Moore. Kellen Moore loves Brett Rippon.
Yeah.
Big fan of Brett Rippon. So if Kellen Moore has any say on what, as they build this team and, don't be surprised if he would pound the table, especially if Rippon goes undrafted. If they get him as an undrafted free agent, get a chance to bring him in, work with Kellen, there might be a little teacher's pet thing going on there.
Well, I'll tell you what, though. Okay, if there was a guy, and again, I'm just going through my notes because I knocked myself offline here for a bit, but I will say this: the one guy that I did felt like that wasn't all over the place was Stidham. I thought Stidham threw the ball well.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and where the ball placement was on deep ball, where the ball was on the outside, where the ball was on the curls, the comebacks and stuff like that. I didn't feel like that he was a 50-50 passer today. I felt like that there were 3 times in a row they ran those vertical routes down the left side, and it was on. In
terms of accuracy.
Yeah, and I'm watching the guy from Buffalo who's got a cannon for Tyree Jackson, and he can't even get the ball down the field. So Stidham was a guy that I kind of was like, and I remember just looking at my notes and stuff like that of the guys, him and the Washington State kid. I thought were
Gardner Minshew.
Minshew were the better of the accurate throwers.
You would think they would try to invest in a guy that kind of has the opposite skill set of Dak. If they choose to go in a different direction, they've already got a guy that knows the system that can throw the ball.
There's people on Periscope saying I draft a quarterback every year.
Yeah.
But I've also got a year invested in Mike White. I've got 2 years invested in Cooper Rush. One of those 2 guys is going to be my backup quarterback.
Yeah.
That's what I'm going to do because, again, I understand drafting, and I was part of a system in Green Bay where that's all they did was draft a quarterback every year. But
it's not a bad strategy.
It's not a bad strategy, but I'm going to give Mike White, like I say, I had a 3rd-round grade on Mike White. I'm sure they had somewhat of a similar grade on Mike White. But what disappointing about Mike White was that he didn't take Cooper Rush to task and beat him out like he should have. So.
Kellen Moore was a Mike White fan, too.
Yeah,
he was really high on that pick.
He sure was.
This question comes from Andre. Why isn't there much buzz about Isaiah Buggs? He seems pretty impressive.
Yeah, we talked about him as a possibility 58. What'd you think about him at the Senior Bowl?
See, that's where I had a problem. I had a problem with his tape. I did not. You know what the problem is? And I think this is where Marinelli and Leon Lett and those guys are going to have a problem. They're not going to have a problem with the strength of him. Where they're going to have a problem is when he gets outside the tackle box, he doesn't get there. He is not a bust his ass player. He's when the ball is at him or in the vicinity, he will discard the blocker and make the play. He is one of the strongest defensive tackles that I've seen in this draft. But when the ball gets to the edge, and there was some time in the Oklahoma game, in the Clemson game, where he didn't finish. I mean, he's out there, and it's kind of like, okay, I'm kind of hear him, and then it's somebody else making the tackle. That bothered me.
Played with some studs on that defense.
Well, yeah, but also though he's played with some studs, and those guys run to the football. When it's at him or he can get up the field and have to, he's a hard guy to block. But I just did not, and I think that Marinelli, and as you see right now, if you're following along with us, Ken has put up Dane's top 10 defensive lineman list. And, he kind of went through it a little bit there. But I did not see that.
Got Buggs at number 10, Dane, by the way, on that list.
Right.
But no, he's a good player. But I see Marinelli and them are like they would like the Iowa kid more. They would like
Nelson?
Yeah, they would like Anthony Nelson more because he runs the ball. He gets the ball. He's the effort. Marinelli wants to see people that get up the field, and nothing against but his defensive tackles, he wants to get up the field and make some plays.
He wants guys with, what is he? What's the word he wants? Juice or something like that?
Always
fire.
Yeah, fire,
a
juice.
defensive tackle that fits that is, I think, Kalen Saunders from Western Illinois. So I think he would be a good fit for this team. See,
people on Periscope are saying that Buggs was hurt at the end of the year. So I mean, again, this is just me.
Maybe it's a steal. Maybe he's undervalued.
Well, I'm just telling you guys and gals, if I'm watching the tape, if he's hurting his team by not being hurt and out there, I understand playing, but also again, there's some tape where you watch. Okay, I watched the Texas A&M game.
That was early in the year.
Early in the year, and he's not getting to the outside. Okay. I mean, that's. I don't think he was hurt then.
I liked his tape a lot better than I liked his Senior Bowl performance. I was not impressed with what he did in Mobile. I don't know. He did not win enough one-on-ones. Shorter arms.
He doesn't get off. He doesn't get off blocks. I mean, he is a pass rusher. I think he's really, really, really limited as a pass rusher.
And I still like him as a top 100 guy.
Yeah.
I just you know, I think you have to have the right fit for him. What's his best position for you? Like, is he a slanted nose? Is he more of a 3?
I thought he was a nose.
That's kind of how
I thought he was a nose. I mean,
right.
that's where I kind of had him pencil in because again, I saw a guy playing with power, playing at the point of attack, playing with his hands, but I didn't. Like I say, I worry as a 3, get up the field, be disruptive.
Right.
I didn't see that. I really didn't see that.
We're wrapping up the combine. This question comes from Kent in Frisco, Texas. Actually, he's in Indianapolis right now. Just of the guys we've seen this weekend, 2 names. One, who legitimately helped themselves, aside from Metcalf, we've talked about him. Who's somebody that you maybe would have to bump up around? And who's a guy that you're really scared about that really maybe did themselves a big disservice by being here or their performance this weekend? Just the guys we've seen. We've got guys that have yet to work out, of course, but
right.
We'll talk about them next week. But
I'm sorry.
Just to wrap things up here.
I know we didn't want to talk about DJ Metcalf, but 3-cone times are in. 27th among wide receivers in the 3-cone today.
You called that. You said that was going to be
7.38.
Yeah,
is not a great time.
Yeah.
But what are you going to do? You know, I think the big Nada for me.
Big winner and big loser.
Big
I guess,
loser. Yeah, big loser for me. Nada. I know we talked about him earlier, but that sticks with me about a guy who really hurt himself. You know, we didn't expect a 4.5.
No.
You know, we didn't expect him to be Noah Fant, but
no.
we didn't expect him to be below average as a tester.
Yeah.
Because he looks smooth out there.
Sure.
You know, he doesn't move stiff. He doesn't move slow. And so, you know, if you're just a little bit off the times, I think you're going to stay true to your initial evaluation. But when it's so far off, like a Miles Boykin, you know, in one direction, and so far off in the other direction with an Isaac Nada, it's time to go back to the tape and say, okay, is he not as good of an athlete as I initially thought, or is he just not a good tester? You know, and is he a good guy or a good test taker in the classroom, but maybe not with the SATs? You know, that kind of thing. So we have to go back and figure out more Isaac Nada. In terms of winner, I mentioned a Miles Boykin, a guy who looks the part, moves well, but not as well as I thought on film. So time to go back to Miles Boykin and figure him out as well.
I'll tell you what, though. I think that Andre Dillard helped himself, the Washington State offensive tackle.
Oh, yeah.
Because I think he put himself, in my mind, he was more probably a borderline 1-2 kind of a guy. He's put himself just, if you watch the tape and then the athletic ability, someone's going to fall in love with this guy. You said it the other day. I wouldn't be surprised if someone takes him in the top 10. We saw Colton Miller get taken in the top
16.
Top 16 last year. So I wouldn't be surprised. And to be quite honest, with no offense to our Raider buddies, though, Andre Dillard's a better player than Colton Miller.
Oh, easy.
Yeah, and so, you know, with that being said, I would be really keep an eye on that one. I think the guy that kind of hurt himself this would be Singletary, the running back from Florida Atlantic. Yeah. And because I think a lot of people now are questioning themselves about, and I think he'll run better when you go down to South Florida and Boca Raton and check him out. You know, like I said, there'll be some scout like me that'll time him at 38 yards, you know, instead of getting him at 40.
Mm-hmm.
If you like a guy that much, you'll find a way. But there's been players that have not performed well. I will give these guys credit, though, that do perform at the Combine. You know, there's a lot of guys that don't ever go out there and step out on that field.
Absolutely.
And a lot of guys got to expose themselves today, good and bad. The last couple of days, good and bad. And so you're always willing to give a guy the benefit of the doubt if he tried to work at the Combine. Now, if one of these guys you get to a pro day and a guy flops around out there and doesn't do very well, then you have the big red flag.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, here at least you say, hey, the guy competed. But I think that Singletary has got to go back. People are going to watch the tape, and they're going to say, okay, this is what I've seen. We're going to see how much conviction people have on him as a player, you know. But again, Andre Dillard, I think that he did a great job. The offensive tackle from Washington State really, really helped him.
Would not be shocked at all if, again, we talk about him as a top 10, top 15 pick.
Yeah.
A guy who –
How about Bradbury, the center, too?
I don't know if you could really take him too early in this draft, to be honest with you.
No, I don't either.
I mean, I think he's –
if you need a center, I don't
know.
I mean, I think several of those guys, McCoy, Texas A&M, helped himself.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
I mean, there are guys that again that put it out there the last couple of days, and we've got a couple more days still to have here. But I was really, really super impressed with McCoy and Dillard, and then I was impressed with Lindstrom. You tried to convince me that Lindstrom, the guard from Boston College, is you know,
he's a good player.
Is a good player. And I'm like, I don't know, Dane. I don't know. Well, now guess who gets to go back and look at the tape? But you're right. We got to go look at that Notre Dame kid.
Yeah, we do.
That wide receiver and kind
try
of
and figure him out.
Figure that out. All right. Hey, thank you so much for hanging out with me all week.
Fun as always.
I appreciate you guys. We appreciate everybody out there for hanging out with us as well. Again, we'll be back Thursday from the Star in Frisco. Again, we're always presented by Miller Lite here. We appreciate everything they do for us. Again, check everything out on DallasCowboys.com. We got a lot of stories going up, recaps, things like that. The guys did a great job today talking to Jerry Jones in the bus here in Indianapolis. Kent's got the video. Rob Phillips has got the written words. Just make sure you check all that stuff out. So, again, for my scout buddy Dane Brugler, for David Hellman, who's out on assignment, for Kent Garrison, I'm Brian Bruss. Thanks for making our week at Indianapolis so special. We'll see you next week from the Star in Frisco. Take care.